guys. Thanks for joining this week's call. So today we are not having a presentation from an outside individual. With all of the things that are going on, it's now been a couple of months or a month and a half since the new change has gone into effect. So I figured today we would use this as an open discussion because I have been tracking a lot of the questions that I continue to get. And I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So this is open forum. I have about 6 things I'll go over, and then I have about 6 things I'll go over, and then the last half hour, I'll leave that for discussion. If you guys feel you need to um, ask questions as we go along, that's fine as well. This is being recorded for those that are not able to attend, but also all of the cloud recordings that we have to date, we will be putting them on a YouTube page. And we're gonna also see how we can create the link to have it on our intranet. So the first thing I'm sharing with you here is making sure you guys know a lot of questions are continuously being updated on this NAR website. As you can see, what that do here? As you can see, there is one section that is, hey, I'm a home buyer or a seller. How does the new changes affect me? And then on the right side, you have, I'm a real estate professional. So there has been a large collection of questions. You guys, it's really too many to print out, and you can just expand this this little section here, and it really does detail for you information. And then I love the fact that it'll have the date that this was added. So if there's been any changes to what was previously stated, you have a way of tracking the data here. It really is important for you to be prepared when you're going on listing appointments or consulting with a buyer, that you are able to explain what the changes are, what this means for that individual, depending on the type of transaction. We also have ongoing classes and informational sessions that Metrotex is offering. I know a few of you have attended and been a part of that, but just know here's a single location where you can just come and make sure you're educated and understand how to explain what is a buyer's rep? Why is it necessary to be signed? How do you explain compensation? What if the buyer tells you, hey, I barely have enough for my closing costs? How do you ensure that you can explain, well, there's a couple of other ways that I can seek my payment. If you don't have the ability to pay me, then let's check with your lender, because there may be the possibility for me to add this to the sales price of the contract. But you want to make sure, obviously, that you've run your sold comps and you looked at that analysis to know that you can't go 9,000 over, because then you run the risk of the property not appraising. So you have to just be able to explain the various scenarios, So who else can tell me another way that you might seek your compensation if the buyer cannot pay you? There you go. Simple as that. Still make the ask. So before you go to any appointments, you should already have your consultation done with the buyer. You're understanding the buyer's needs. You have your little intake form. You have your checklist. Well, obviously, the most obvious thing you want to do is place that call to the listing agent. Introduce yourself. I have a buyer interested in seeing your home. Would like to know if the seller is offering any compensation to me as a buyer's agent. That's going to be a yes or a no. It's going to be a percentage, or it could be a flat fee. So, our goal, and I'll be sending this document out to everyone after the call. Our goal from a brokerage perspective is to always seek 3%. Now, we know that's not always going to happen, but we definitely want to lead in, start with 3%. Understanding that if the seller is offering 2.5, okay, is it worth rolling it in? Well, the likelihood of the property appraising, that's not going to shoot it up that high. You could add that other 0.5% into the sales price of the contract. As long as, and what is the other document you guys need to use in addition to your consultation, doing your little intake with your buyer? You have your buyer's rep before you call to schedule any appointments with the showing time. What other, when you're ready to write your contract, what other documents should you be including in your loop file? Thank you. Y'all are so smart. If you guys didn't hear it on the phone, Tasha responded with the compensation agreement. We definitely need that added. That validates that you've called, you've obtained that information. There's the compensation agreement. I have had a title company ask me for that document because you're still writing it on page 10. Everybody know, if y'all don't know the paragraphs in a contract, I mean, everybody knows page 10 is where you put your compensation at the bottom of that form. I've had a title company ask me for the compensation, and I'll tell you who else will have asked me for a buyer's rep, a builder. The builder, even though the builder has told me they're paying 3%, I still had to send my buyer's rep for that client in. And the other thing is, what did they want me to change on there? So my buyer's rep, it was a pretty tight window. I knew the person was ready to buy right now. I think I did maybe a 40-day, 45 days, something like that on the buyer's rep, because we were going under contract, pretty confident we were getting ready to write the contract. They wanted me, I'll have to look back, but this was the builder in this case was Highland Homes. There was something on my buyer's rep they wanted me to modify. They didn't like, I don't know if it was the length of time or, oh, you know what it might have been? I may have had to update. It was something minor, but they are checking as well. Everybody is sort of making sure that they're all in compliance with all of these changes. So just be prepared and know that you will need that. Your buyer's rep, your compensation addendum, all added to your loop. Any questions?
I have a question. I don't think we've gotten as well. What is the difference between the short form and the long form for the buyer's rep?
The long form is just more details. And I have found that that's a little intimidating for a buyer. I like the short form, and I actually got that question, I believe, from Rita yesterday. Can we use who knows the form number? 1507. Okay. So and I told her, my preference is to use the short form. It's consolidated. It still covers all of the components that you need. And it's less intimidating if you're sitting across for someone. Because keep in mind, you need to read and understand these forms because you're having to present it and you're like, can you sign? I'm like, well, what is that? Yeah. And you're like, well, let's read it together. But definitely the 1507, the short form is fine. I gave you guys the option of using either or, but there's really no preference from a brokerage perspective. I like the 1507 just personally. Making sure. Oh, there's something in the chat. My bad. Hold on, y'all. Oh, hello, Lindsay, and good afternoon, Rita. Okay, very good. Okay, we're gonna keep moving. I am gonna send you guys. Oh, this is a question that I've gotten this week. Can anyone tell me what is the difference? And don't answer, Ruth. What is the difference between a lender's title policy or a lender's policy and an owner's policy? The title insurance I'm speaking about. Mm-hmm. So there's two types of insurance, and you're going to have a lender's policy, which is typically mandatory. That covers the lender and is optional, but definitely recommended. The owner's policy is something obviously for the homeowner. So when you're asking for title to be paid by the seller, you guys know the paragraph I'm speaking of. When you're asking for title to be paid, that only covers one half of those policies. So you have a lender's policy, you have an owner's policy. They're man, and most lenders will require, sure, I don't miss
Does
anything.
the lender provide his documents or no? Title company does, the title company does, then, okay.
The lender's title policy, and this is my mortgage expert speaking here under, the lender's title policy protects the lender, which is required per the lender. As I was just saying, the owner's title policy is optional for the owner, you know, and they can opt out. I had a guy who bought a townhouse and he saw no need for him to pay that extra money for that owner's title policy. Yeah. Thank you, Rita.
Because if the policy is good for the lender, it would also prove that it's
Good for the owner.
Yeah.
I like that. Break that down simply put. Before I go into some of the other documents, I just want to chat with you guys about the buyer script and the seller scripts that I sent out. Have you guys had a chance to read those? I have received some feedback that the buyer scripts and seller scripts are pretty helpful. These are seller scripts. A couple of you have an opportunity, share. A couple of you have an opportunity to go on some listing appointments, and obviously your first listing appointments, your first buyer contracts, want to make sure that you know that you have the benefit of having myself, Diana, Ruth, any one of us look over your loops if you're uncomfortable. If you want us to, me personally, to accompany you to any appointment, we can definitely do that. But I just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with these various scripts. So as I said, that we're sent on the 25th, and you can customize this to fit your style. But this is just to give you a guide on the typical engagement. Now, these scripts are to be used in conjunction with your marketing presentation and your other research that you do before going on a listing appointment. When you get the opportunity to go on a listing appointment, you need to just familiarize yourself with, hey, what's the direct properties that's on the market within a quarter mile, half mile of the subject's property? You need to know what their competition is going to be. You also need to look and see, okay, how many properties have sold in the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? You know, and then if you run your cloud CMA, you can just let the system, what's your preference on cloud CMA, Ruth? Do you let the system fetch the closest 10 listings, or do you actually take the time and let me explain why I'm asking that question. If you allow the system to just fetch your 10 listings, you're going to get 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms. You might get something that's a new build compare in your subject's home is a 1980s build. Well, that's not apples to apples. One of the things I need to spend time on is talking about adjustments, because even when you have homes that are bracketed, and I use the rule of thumb from a square footage perspective, plus or minus 500, from year built, plus or minus 5 years. I got that from an appraiser years ago. So what's your take?
I like to do my own adjustments,
Mhm.
and on the square footage, I take the difference in square footage, got this from an appraiser too.
Mhm.
The difference in square footage multiplied times how much per square foot,
Mhm.
and divide the answer by 4.
Oh, I like that.
Add or subtract that, but I've added 2, you don't call them columns because they're the horizontal things.
Uh-huh.
What do you call those, rows?
Uh-huh.
I've added 2 rows on the bottom of my CMA. I added remodel
Mhm.
and updated.
Mhm.
Because if the one you're selling has no remodeling, no updating, but the one you're using as a comparison, they spent 20 to 50,000 either updating, maybe more remodeling, they're not comparable.
Right. And something else I was going to say, now, if you choose to use the cloud CMA where the system fetches the listings, you can see a graphical depiction and it'll show you where those properties are, but you do have the ability to check and uncheck any homes that you feel are not aligned with your subject's property. Another thing, when it comes to adjustments and doing true comparisons in properties, you want to make sure you're not comparing a 2024 build to a 1980s build, because it's just not gonna, the value's not gonna be the same. The other thing, there is a such thing as a homeowner having over improved for the neighborhood. Hold on, I'm gonna think of the word. There's a word. Is it conforming? Yeah, there we go. You know, is that home conforming to, to the neighborhood? You see this language a lot on BPOs and BMAs. They'll ask, well, is the subject's home conforming or non-conforming to that neighborhood? So CMAs is something we can talk about and demonstrate how you can create your own. And if you choose to use the cloud CMA, how you can do the adjustments accordingly so your subject's home is more bracketed. If
With
that,
CMAs, pardon me, I like to use the subdivision.
yes,
Because you're more likely to get several of the same, even design.
yeah, that's right.
The layout, and then they're more the same year, they're more close.
So let me, you know what, you bring that up and that is an excellent point. So let me, I don't want to take for granted that you guys know what she's referencing here. So let me just quickly show you. When you, not too many windows.
That confirms that I'm doing it right, you know.
Great, so we can let you teach the class on CMAs, Marilyn. That is great, but that's how we learn. That's how we learn, because you can have an assumption. I learn something every day. I like talking to people because what you think may be accurate, things change, right? Or you have to, hold on, let me find what I'm looking for.
And I don't like to do the ones that ask, say it's within 1 mile.
Right.
Well, my goodness, within 1 mile, you can have drastically different situations.
So what Ruth is speaking of, and I know somebody's address. We were just doing this in Green Oaks, and it's Hutchins, Green Oaks Drive in Hutchins. Okay, so when you're looking at what has sold, let's see, close, let me uncheck all these little guys. Here, you can do this little down arrow. You can select a 1/4 mile of this property, and it tells me that there's been 4 that have sold. Ma'am, I updated some of these, so I'm gonna give y'all, print these out in just a minute. So this is not in any of this. So here, what I was saying, I did a 1/4 mile of that property. So that is gonna be the same subdivision. If you want to verify that it's accurate, you see right here. So when I look at the results of those 4, it's Skyline Estates. So what Ruth is saying, now we were select them all. You see how you can do a cloud CMA, or you can just go to this little guy right here and do your CMA. You put your client name in and it'll walk you through a series, all of these little fields here, pages, subject. So you can actually add and remove the MLS numbers that are in scope for.
Do your subject, click on subject, if you will. Oh, no, it's not. It's not gonna show me. It's gonna show them where to add, remodel, or updated.
Wouldn't it be here? Hold
No,
on, hold
No,
on.
it's when you're putting in the information about your subject property.
So that's, hold on, y'all.
Yeah, when you're putting in about the subject, but we don't have a subject filled in.
No, we don't, but I was just looking here. So these are the pages. These are the pages, and here are the categories, and you can upload custom pages. You can set these as your default, but what Ruth is referencing is here with subject, let's see, enter MLS, autofill. Let's do autofill. Oh, I don't have a.
Didn't tell it what the field was.
Yeah. So let's see.
I don't have
Search your
a
property.
anything.
Yeah, hold on. I don't want to type them all. Give me a second.
So this is the way you prefer to go, this regular CMA in the cloud, as opposed to the
I
cloud?
wanna select them, I wanna, I think it's showing that updated and it all, that's.
Showing it all.
Hold on, I want to get to where you're, since you referenced that, someone may have an interest in seeing it. And what county is that?
Hutchins.
Yeah, it's, what is Hutchins? Ellis County? I don't.
I think that's enough.
It's not
Just if
down?
we scroll on down, you just go down on the left where you add them. Down at the bottom, you can do custom.
Right here.
fields. Yeah,
Mhm.
so in that first one, I put updated because that's a little bit less than remodeled. And then in the second one, I put my remodeled. And, you know, sometimes,
And here, so you guys can see that. So you just put this here,
yes.
like spell it right.
And sometimes you can tell just from the wording, the remarks line that shows up on the bottom of this, what the updating is. And other times I might want to go back and look at the picture of the comparable just to see, what the updating is.
Well, I do have one question about, CMAs. I know the one that you just pulled up all closed properties.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever include any active or pending?
Well, you don't know what it's gonna close at. So if I'm looking at true numbers of what the likely price would be for a buyer in that subdivision, I only wanna use closed. But let me tell you, I include a lot of data, cause I wanna see what the numbers align. I like to do the quick comps active, I'll do the quick comp sold, I'll run a CMA, you know, and then if you're looking at the realtors report, you know, there's that real AVM that's shown there. So once I have all of these different ways I've sliced and diced through the data, that should yield a relatively close bracketed suggest list price for you. Because, and I'm just oversharing. A lot of times I'm oversharing information. You just have to know your client. Some people are more analytical than others. You know, you have to be cognizant of using just what's represented on the cloud CMA because it's not going to give you the best comparison in some cases.
I do two CMAs. I do a CMA of the sold. Because
Uh-huh,
that's
makes
what's
it.
actually seller self-document.
Uh-huh.
I do an active one, when I'm talking about the active or the pending, everything
Active
but
contract,
closed,
uh-huh.
I tell the seller, this is your competition in the marketplace.
That's right.
It's like when you go to the store to shop for Post cereal, there's all these different kinds of Post cereal, they're gonna buy cereal, but which one? So
Mhm.
here's your competition, homes like yours that are crossed at this.
Yeah.
That may not get this,
Yeah.
but it's competition.
Yeah.
So I do a competition CMA and sold CMA. Good, thank you.
So, sellers, we talked about active, we talked about sold, CMA, either cloud or manually. And you guys, I had this question has come up in the last week 3 times. So I'm gonna take a quick moment to show you, I don't wanna download it again, but let me just show you. When you log into Resource Center, please know there are tons of templates and presentations available for your use. If you just use this search bar right here, this is your home selling marketing presentation that you can download and customize. And the presentation will, you download it and it comes in PowerPoint. You can do landscape or give me a second. You can do landscape or you can do portrait, and you can print it in French, Spanish. Well, there's like 7 languages that you can print the information in. But you have a home selling and a home buying. What did I click on real quick? Where's my home? Oh, home selling is your marketing for your listings, but your home finding, and I'm gonna do this real quick. There we go. So your home finding is for your buyers. So this is, again, Spanish, French, something you can download. It's a large file. I don't want to download it again, but everyone should practice downloading those 2 templates, home buying, home selling and home finding. And then of course, that's something you can share up with your client, but the other thing that is good to see, let me see if I can, here's one I downloaded earlier in the week when someone asked. So look at how there's 49 slides. No, don't kill somebody with PowerPoint. They're not going to listen to you. But you go through here and you select the slides that are relevant for you in your presentation. If you've already done a cloud CMA, sold a cloud CMA active, maybe in here, these are slides you don't even want to include, your recent home sales, because you've already given it to them outside of this. So those are ones you could kill. If you don't directly have client testimonials, you can use what has been shared with other agents about the brokerage or services that we may provide. So you can tweak this, but there's a lot of data that's already here. Anything that's in red would need to be updated with our DBA. Our DBA is Berkshire Hathaway Home Services AAction Realtors. You cannot just put Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. There's 9 of us now in the Metroplex. Which franchise is you're sponsoring brokerage? So you always have to put BHHS AAction Realtors. Something else that came up, someone downloaded this and they're like, well, how can I, it says Allison Doyle. How do I want to put AAction? Well, when you take and become a brand ambassador and you take classes in the resource center, you will know that under your profile, let me go back to that because I want you guys to see where I'm getting this from. Under your profile in resource center, everyone sees that? Okay, you click on my office. In my office, you can download your our pre-formatted DBAs, our name. And this is why I said I updated. You see how in this one, I updated it. It has the AAction here instead of just a text box like that. So you guys can download right here our logos. And when you download the logos, you have the ability, let me show you. I downloaded them because I knew I was going to show this. You download the logos and we are TX311. Let me find mine. I downloaded this so I wouldn't have to take a long time. Where's my TX? TX311. Not that, not that, not that. Oh, they're on the desktop. But if you need me to show you, because I downloaded on my desktop. But if you need me to show you how you can download the company logos so that you can use them appropriately, I can walk you through doing that. It's 12:20, so I'm going to keep moving. We've talked about seller scripts. We've talked about CMAs. We talked about title policy. Another question that's come up, and I'll send this out to everyone, are I might have someone looking for a commercial lease space. What kind of questions do I need to ask? Well, you're not proficient or competent in doing commercial projects, but remember we do have Eugene Thomas, who is my mentor, my coach from a commercial perspective. He looks over any commercial opportunities that I get. But what I put together is a list of questions that you can ask someone who might be looking to lease or buy. That would be a great opportunity to engage with Mr. Eugene and have him shadow if your interest is to eventually one day move into the commercial space as well. Commercial leases are not as involved as a purchase, but some of these same questions and things still apply. So I'll share this document out with you guys after the call here. Let's make sure I don't have any questions. All righty. So something that Ruth actually has received a lot of interest from the community on Burger. 2607 Burger is one of our lease properties. So those leads, when they come in, we tend to just round robin them to the agents, because working a lease that gives you great exposure, you also nurture that relationship once you get the person approved. If it's not for one of our houses, maybe another one. But once you get that person approved, that becomes a buyer for you. Keep them in your pipeline, follow up with them every 3 to 6 months, definitely before renewal, and that can become a buyer for you. But hosting hosting an open house, whether it's a one of the agents in the office, one of their listings, or whether it's a leased property, there is an art to hosting an open house, especially if you're really if you promote it well. And I think you're holding, is it today?
Yes,
You're
today.
gonna hold burger? So that's great. Now, that's gonna be a little different. You have people coming and they're sort of, the times are back to back. So you're not gonna go in and be able to put balloons out and put a sign out, hosting open house and all that, because you're just trying to get people in and out to see the home, with their schedule. So what I have, oh, that's lunch. So what I have put together is, what are suggestions you can share with a seller and or you do as an agent the day before the open house and then the day of the open house? So I will send this information to you guys as well. In our resource center, it does show a one pager with like maybe 4 or 5 line items on here's what you do the day before, and then maybe 8 items on here's what you do the day of. Well, I've expanded upon that. So you guys will see that attachment in an email after the call. One of the things I will tell you, please know you cannot show up 5 minutes before your scheduled open house, because you're gonna be too frustrated. You need to be in a position to pass out flyers. Make sure you get there in enough time to open the door, and cut the lights on. When I say open the door, I'm talking like the interior doors, because you're trying to minimize touch points, right? You just, yeah, you want to open the blinds, you want to open the interior doors. Obviously, you want to set yourself up so you can see individuals who are walking toward you. It is a great idea if you guys can have, we were just at a event yesterday, and again, they were talking about safety. If you can have someone there at the open house with you, that's great, because sometimes you'll hold a property open and no one will come. Sometimes you'll hold it open and you have traffic back to back, and you cannot greet someone, give them a feedback, a survey feedback, while you have someone else wandering around the house. So if you can have another person at the open house with you, that would be great.
Does the person have to be a realtor?
That person does not have to be a realtor. Yeah, that is a great question, but no, and if something, just in general, if something doesn't feel right, a person seems a little off, get on the phone and call whoever your Berkshire buddy is, or call me, or just let us know where you are. I'm notorious for taking the snapshots of a car, a license plate. I want to be where I can see the individual coming in. I've been working with Lou. He's not on the call, he's in school, but Lou has hosted a couple of open houses for a condo, and the condo is on the 3rd floor. So he and Chanel partnered. One was out by the security gate giving the flyers out and making sure the directional arrows were right. And then he was downstairs because Chanel wasn't going up and down. He was down and she was up, and that way she could greet the people coming in. So that was a great example of how they tag team and did a little teamwork and tried to manage the traffic, because they were stopping any and everybody coming into the complex. So, you just don't have an opportunity to vet anyone, and hear and learn much about them if you're encouraging them to come and walk through this condo. And then the other challenge was the condo, there's just you go up some stairs, it's sort of it's not open where you can see from the lower levels. So they had to go through a glass door and into the condo. So, he was blind to whatever was happening upstairs with her. But just,
Are
Be-
you gonna be reassigning, Berkshire buddy?
yeah, we're going to talk about that so we can prepare for our vision boards and things like that. But we'll definitely do that. Any questions on open houses? Reload. I did bring you guys, if you have not heard, Eileen's husband is a district manager and they will be relocating to Kansas. She's still gonna offer marketing, social media to the office, but probably within the next 3 to 6 months, they're going to be moving. So Eris is one of the relocation companies that we work with. We're already set up with them. Berkshire Hathaway AAction is already set up with them. And that just happens to have been the company that her husband's company is, the relocation company working with her husband. Several of you have asked about, hey, working relocation, how do I get those opportunities? Well, I got an example of what I had to do just to be in a competitive listing, go to a competitive listing appointment. Now, I don't know if we're gonna get it or not because it's numbers and it's reviewed with the third party and all of that. But this is the 11-page report that I had to put together and submit to Eris. I brought this so you guys can see what's required here. It's a lot of information. I'm
And
very,
on those listings, you can know there's gonna be one or two more agents presenting that same package, so you can't just throw it on there because.
oh
you'll
yeah,
lose.
exactly. And I can attach this to the email if someone reaches out and have an interest in just seeing it, I can send this to you guys, but it is very, very detailed. I'm very familiar with doing these things. It still took me 4.5 hours of just straight focus to get this report together.
Can you
Once
send it to me, please?
Amani, okay, yes, ma'am, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Once you get the opportunity and you're going out to the client site, in addition to doing this comprehensive report, you also have to do a photo log of every room, interior and exterior. Because you got to think the third party who's evaluating this, they haven't seen this house, they don't know anything about it. So they actually tell you to submit professional photos. Now you haven't won any kind of list, and I'm like, no, we're gonna use my phone. But you have to make sure you have great shots of every bedroom, every bathroom, the laundry room, the porch, if there's a porch, the patio, the backyard, the front yard, because you're painting a picture and sharing with them details about the property. Is it near, they even ask questions, is it near utility? Is it near a train track? It's a lot of information. So as I share this out, you can take a look at it yourself. In addition to Eris being a company we're associated with, Berkshire Hathaway has Brookfield, it was Brookfield, then it became BGRS, and now I think Serva is a part of it. Have you read that or seen that? I think it's Serva, but you have to be G certified in order to get those relocation opportunities. And it could be a federal judge, it could be someone working at the prison system over here in Kaufman or prison.
FBI, I've done FBI downtown Dallas.
FBI, yes. So the reason you have to be certified, and the certification is free, going through the courses are free. There's a unique code because Sue Gardino, I think is her name, they track your progress and track your completion of it. So there is a key code that I have to give you, and you just take the courses at your leisure, stop and start, but just know before you can get those opportunities, whether it's a buyer or a seller, you have to be G certified, government certified. So just be aware of that. What question came up about that? The referral fee at last check was 42%. So, but if you're doing a high-end property, I'll take that all day. And here's your 42%. Especially if it's a buyer. Usually those, if you're on top of your game, those are shoe-in. And the transferee typically sticks with the referral agent. Relo reports buyer, let's see, commercial, open houses, title chambers. We are a part of the Mesquite Chamber. I have talked to a few of you about joining other chambers, but before we make that investment, we want to make sure that you will be attending networking events. You're going to be involved with the chamber. Great opportunity to meet people from, meet city officials, meet other council members. This past Thursday, Marilyn and I went to the Mesquite Chamber Luncheon, which was at Dallas College. The mayor was the keynote speaker, and he gave an update on what's happening in the city of Mesquite. A lot of things happening in the city of Mesquite. So it's worth the investment in time if you guys are going to really be involved. I think it's, Lorena is very active in Royce City and going to different meetings. And I wish she was online to share with you what her experience has been. One of the city officials was presenting something, and there was Lorena and this other realtor who had been pretty consistent with going to those meetings. And she said in front of this large group, if you ever need a real estate agent, contact Lorena Garcia. And so that was big for her to get that kind of acknowledgement, because you're always prospecting. And there's something to be said about direct prospecting face to face, because you get a commitment, you get the buy-in, you establish the rapport. Um, a lot of agents have found value in being eye to eye, belly to belly, you know, with a person, but just being present and offering your services. Cause sometimes it just starts with you educating or sharing a nugget, and that person will reach back out to you. Those are the areas that I had for today. Are there any questions regarding anything we've talked about? Relo, the buyer seller scripts, the buyer rep agreement, commercial questions I'll send to you guys, how to find your FAQ from a NAR perspective directly on their website. We talked about open houses and title policy, lender title policy, and owner title policies. Any questions, comments?
Negotiating your brokerage fee, if someone asks you, they asked, I heard about the SNAR lawsuit and everything, are you guys, are you negotiating fees? Yes, we are. We offer different activities for different fees. We can do this for 7%. We can do this for 6.5%. We can do this for 6%. Which one would you like?
Mhm. Yep. And and really negotiating your fees is important, because for some, if you guys are reading the your listing agreement, there's a place on there where you can identify if there's any reimbursable fees, such as videography, photography. Are you going to do any staging on the home? That's all for you to determine with your client. Or you may choose to absorb that cost. That may be the unique value that you're bringing to the table, opposed to another agent they're interviewing. I'll pay for photography. I'll put this in this magazine, whatever, you know. So just understand, everything is negotiable. It is all negotiable. Let me go to a couple of questions that I got today from a few people. Someone asked me, let me find it. Someone asked me, can I represent someone who signed a rep agreement with another agent? What do y'all think?
Yes, you can, but they'll have to pay both of you.
Well, obviously, you can represent anyone who wants to work with you and signed an agreement, but we want to always lead with professional courtesy. I simply responded, have the person consider notifying the other agent they no longer wish to work with them. It's just a professional courtesy. They don't have to wait for a response. They can send a text, an email, but you just want to ask them to consider doing that. But right on, go ahead and sign this for me. I'm here to help you.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing that could happen. It depends on the one they're leaving, how unhappy they are with that person, they might be willing to go ahead and pay them whatever the agreement says.
Yep, okay, I had someone now this one was a doozy, this one's a complex, so I want you guys to listen carefully. I'm just gonna summarize the situation. A person who's currently under contract reached out to one of our agents asking if they can help them resolve two matters. One matter is they were previously under contract and they lost $3,300 in earnest money. And they suspect that the agent took the money. I was like, please don't touch that. Please don't touch. That's one. The other part that she said is, now again, she's under contract and she being the buyer found out that the agent who she gave access to logged into her email to resend pay stubs. However, however, the agent changed the hourly rate on the pay stubs before she sent them into the lender. And the agent, not our agent, but the agent of this buyer also found out that her tax returns were sent in. So y'all follow? She gave the permission for the agent to log in, but the agent modified financial data. It resulted in her employer being notified that the fraud department needed to verify, get involved, be engaged. So now you have this, now you have this buyer who initially didn't want to work with our agent is coming asking for advice, assistance. You don't give advice. We don't give advice. You guys, hopefully whoever just joined back in, you do not give advice. If you don't give advice and there's really not much you can share with this person other than say, well, that if you have a concern with the agent and what may have transpired, they have a broker. They have a broker. You don't give any other advice. Now, on Trek's website, there is the consumer complaint or whatever, that you don't help facilitate any of that. You can direct them there. You guys have those consumer protection notices on the bottom of some of your emails. But that one, the agent was concerned because it's someone she has known, although she chose not to work with her initially. Well, it's unfortunate because she's in a situation. But it needs to be researched about whatever, but nothing we can do. We can't offer any advice there.
Well, you're talking about risk and things, and I know time is precious, but if you ever hear someone asking you about rent to buy, we can't do that. That's very, very risky. You can explain to them why it's very risky.
Right.
But if they want to go ahead and take the risk, they need to get an attorney.
And someone has actually taken one of our properties and put it on the Craigslist. Yeah, that happened. Someone took our property, put it on Craigslist, told the person to send the money. The person sent the money. And then when they were waiting to meet them for the keys, oh, now they found the correct number. They're calling us. I was like, ma'am, you need to report that to the police. That's not how we operate. We have nothing to do with that. You don't send us money. Everything is, we have a process and we have a portal. The last thing I'll say before I see if there's any questions. Oh, there's 3 messages. You guys do realize if you're ever in, okay, thank you. If you guys are ever, you want to ask a question, you know that you have the benefit of being able to call Trek. There's a legal hotline. Now you have to be very succinct. You have to be very succinct with your question because they're going to give you a very general answer. You're, if you can get, I don't think I've called and have gotten what I needed on any of my calls. I usually, Got more confused.
Thank you. If you happen to call, that's an agent, I believe, Glenn is notified.
Yeah.
You called him, so you might as well ask her
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
since she knows the answer.
And if I don't, I am when I tell you realtors are the source of everything, I have a reliable source. And Ryan and Sean Clemenson with Tiago Title are real estate attorneys. So are Jonathan, who is one of the escrow officers, and I forgot the lady's name over in Dallas. So I send business to them just to keep that relationship alive, because I can call them and get a, you know, a woosah if I know, if I'm doing, my thought process is right. So I do have that little added connection if we ever have something that gives any of us pause.
I just always call Kalani first, and the last time I called her, I said, well, do you want me to call the hotline? No, she said, I want to call them because I don't know the answer and I need to know the answer.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, hold on, let me see. Rita here says, my buyer client is purchasing a new home from a builder who is demanding to see our buyer's rep agreement to verify. Hold on one second. The amount of compensation my client has authorized me to receive. Do I or the buyer have to share the agreement? Who said no? It is inappropriate for the builder or the listing broker. No, it's not. I actually just said that. I'll go back and read what you're saying. No questions for me, Jessica. No, I actually had that happen. And that was the example I gave early on, Highland Home. I have a guy under contract. And they wanted to see the buyer's rep. But I've already asked in advance, when I'm setting the appointment to go to the builder, I'm asking, is there buyer's agent compensation here with you guys? Lennar is notorious for doing 1%, but lately, you know, they have been doing 3 in some of their communities. So you need to ask and document that, but again, your buyer's rep should already be filled out. You got 3% noted on there. They want to see the 3%, send it in. You know, yeah, there's nothing to prohibit you from sharing that, but I'll read that comment again more and we can talk directly, Rita. Any other questions?
I was showing some rental properties a couple weeks ago in Rockville, and this, the lady that I was telling you, she was adding properties as we was going to see them. And one of them I had to call Broker Bank, and they asked if I had a buyer. Will they ever ask to see it? If they do, can we send it to them, or do we have to?
A broker bay is simply what I found out. Thank you for that. Broker bay is simply asking as a reminder for you for you to know that your compensation with that representation is all come full circle. They're not going to ask you to send it in, but you definitely want to. It's a reminder really for you as the agent. Broker bay is doing that, not showing time. They're asking.
Are you aware?
Are
you aware of this?
Yeah.
I heard, he was on the phone, so I didn't.
Yeah. You're like, what you asking?
I've had a client that she's wanting a new home, so we'll be going to several new home builders, and not one of them have asked me for that buyer's representation, not one.
For your new bills, people are still trying to figure it out. I'm telling you, because I showed another client over here in Solterra. They did not ask for it. I went to Lavon. Lavon is where Highland is building this community, and that sales rep asked for it. She said that their corporate office needs it. So I'm gonna look into. I'll look at this, Rita, and follow up with you. Because yeah, and I think everybody is still so unsure of what to do. So you're just gonna err on the side of caution, like, okay, here it is. Anything else?
No.
Yeah.
I have a question. So if we have, you have the buyers and you tell them about the compensation, you have the general conversation.
Mhm.
And then they you give them, show them properties, and then you call, I'm not showing, but you get them together.
Yeah.
And then so you call to see what the compensation is.
Mhm.
And so, if the seller is not paying the compensation, is there any literature or whatever, a script to say, to go back then to your buyer and be like, hey, I can show you this house, but, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah, and you know what, part of that part of that conversation you're having with the buyer is telling them that you're gonna seek compensation or see if they're offering compensation. However, if they're not, then it defaults to you to pay me. So you've already said it.
Mhm.
And then when you find out that property A is the seller's not offering any compensation, you present it to the buyer with that fact, and they tell you if they want to proceed with seeing
Okay.
it or not. No,
So
the
you just
buyer
don't
can
lie
decline.
and be like, hey, we're
Right.
not gonna show you this. I'm like-
No, let the buyer decline, because the reason you want to let the buyer tell you, well, I still want to see it. Okay, well, you understand compensation is coming from you, or it will be rolled into your sales price.
Could you write it, let's say,
That's real.
let's say you showed the buyer and the buyer really liked that home. Could you, and when you wrote the offer for them, could you write it in that the seller will allow a certain amount, that paragraph where the seller's gonna allow for the buyer to have this much money?
Oh, yeah, you could, because you know what, when you, yeah, that's a good point, and you know that when you're calling, depending on what your conversation has been with your buyer, you're not just calling to find out about compensation for you,
Mhm.
but perhaps they only have X amount of money. You know that if you were to write an offer, they're gonna need concession. So you should ask about both at the time, and to a point, you can write that in there. Cause I already closed it, so it worked. I had a seller only offering 2%, and I put the other 1% into the sales price, and you can do it. The comp supported it. Actually, he came out even with quite a bit of equity when the appraisal was done. We were surprised. But yeah, you can.